Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live. Today we have a good one for you. There's an acronym that's getting very popular out there in the political and social sphere. It's called BRICS, and today we'll discuss what exactly that is and what does that mean for Jamaica. So tonight we have with us Mr. Joseph L. Patterson, President of the UIC. I'm sure you all know Mr. Patterson. And we also have Mr. Winston Wright, UIC Westmoreland representative. And Mr. Wright will be spearheading our main presentation tonight. Welcome, everyone who is online and here to support us and participate in this very, very interesting discussion that we have. So, welcome, gentlemen. It's going to be a good one tonight.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Right. Okay, so Mr. Wright, you want to begin? You want to start us off?
Well, before Mr. Wright begins,
Sure. Let me just say, greet our president.
I didn't get to say good evening, Mr. Wright. How are you doing, sir?
Mr. President, I was talking to my kids, and it's almost a year since we've been on, since I've been on, so it's good to be on with you.
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. It's been quite a while. I was doing the math myself as well, and say it's a long time since you've been here. So we're very happy to see you, and I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight.
Everyone in the movement, in the executive of the movement, know that I had to take care of some personal matters. That is still a matter that is being addressed. But I did have some time, and I wanted to share with Uniters, with the movement, and this very important matter. As a matter of fact, the UIC usually talks about its foreign affairs outlook, and persons usually gloss it over because the UIC has always been protectionist of Jamaicans. Has always said Jamaicans first. We should fix Jamaica, fix our economy, and from there we can take on the rest of the world. Now tonight we're gonna look far afield to get that global outlook as to where our economy needs to go and what we need to do to play in the big leagues to be recognized with those guys up there that have those acronyms behind their names. So over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes. So it's somewhat of a reunion, according to our president, Mr. Patterson. So, so Mr. Wright, we're gonna hand it over to you to begin the discussion to start us off.
All right, so as you have said, Mr. Nelson, there is an acronym that is gaining popularity out there, and it's called BRICS, BRICS. And the UIC has been inundated with questions, including me personally. When will Jamaica join, and will the UIC take Jamaica into such an alliance? Now, let's firstly understand what BRICS is, what their agenda, their public agenda seems to be, and what we can discern from an economical outlook from them. And then we can discuss whether or not the UIC is willing to join. So the acronym BRICS is the first letter of the names of 5 countries. They are all economic powerhouses in their own rights. They are producers in their own rights. And to mention Jamaica's name in the same class, considering even though some of those countries and us share a similar background, is a disservice to the work that they have done on their economy and the lack of work on ours. And as the UIC has always said, our president has always said, that Jamaica is not a poor country, but a poorly managed country, and we'll demonstrate that. So BRICS, BRICS, is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And those countries came together and formed an alliance, and that alliance is making waves. Now, when we look at those countries, we see that they came together in 2012, thereabouts, and they have been steadily gaining popularity. But what has really pushed them over the edge is the recent moves that they have been making in terms of consolidating certain economic powers. And definitely, the world energy producers compete with OPEC, led by the American-backed petrodollar. So we're going to look at what that means for Jamaica. So let's go back to BRICS, which is an intergovernmental organization. And as I said, it has the founding members being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, people are wondering, okay, what does it mean for those countries? They recognize Russia because everybody knows Russia as a permanent member of the UN Security Council and nuclear power and a so-called superpower. Okay, what about the others? Brazil, for example, is a massive producer. Their energy diversification is massive. They literally spread the gambit when it comes to energy. When you look at Brazil compared to Jamaica, you will see that Brazil, for example, uses coal, oil, natural gas, hydrofuel, bio-waste. So they have cheap energy and is able to manufacture, create a manufacturing base, something Jamaica has lacked since the early 80s. So they're producing aircraft, they're producing machinery, weaponry, and of course, chemicals and pharmaceuticals. So their manufacturing base is huge based on their diversified energy mix, which gives them the ability to produce these things at a very nominal cost. What do you think, Mr. President?
Sorry, what is the specific question again, Mr. Wright? Sorry, I didn't.
What do you think about the energy mix of these countries being so diversified, giving them the opportunity to produce per unit at a lower cost than Jamaica can ever imagine?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, all of these countries have large amount of land and resources that they have actually exploited to their benefit. Jamaica being a relatively small country in size, has not made full use of its available resources. So like South Africa, for example, and even India, we have access to a huge amount of solar capacity that we have not tapped into. We have access to geothermal technology that we have not tapped into, access to biomass technology that we have not tapped into. But they have done what they need to do, and even some are doing less than they could. For example, South Africa is actually having some serious energy problems in their country because of similar problems to Jamaica in terms of corruption, monopoly in their energy sector, and the spin-off effect of that. So right now the Jamaican people are suffering because our governments of the last 80 years have chosen to create a big monopoly called JPS, as opposed to creating a diversified energy economy that would allow us to have many Jamaicans producing energy in different parts of the country and linking that to giving us greater access to renewable energies and how that could help. So it's just a matter of choice and management. And China is making great leaps in their area of energy development, but China suffers a serious problem. And the problem China suffers is that they have not figured out how to liberate their people. They still want to maintain this ironclad control over the population and not give them the freedom to fully, invent and innovate and know that they can benefit from their innovation and invention. And so they're now suffering from, capital flight and all kinds of challenges. So there's a whole lot of issues to look at. But in terms of BRICS, the big issue to me where BRICS is concerned is that we have a monopoly in the international trading messaging platform, which is SWIFT. And we have a monopoly in the currency, which dominates reserve status, which is the US dollar. So you have one country, and it's not even a country, it's just that it's based in the US. It's really one set of private bankers, because the federal bank, as well as the central banks and the cartel of them all, is in the hands of a few private individuals that masquerade as being a part of government, when in fact all they do is control the government. And they're in fact now controlling two very important things: a reserve currency on the one hand, which came about in the 1940s, and on the other hand, the messaging platform that allows us to do international trade. They're controlling both of those. And BRICS is now coming forward as an alternative to that. And we should be interested in an alternative, because what we want is a free and fair market economy. And a key part of that is having a decentralized platform, or at least having competing platforms that we can alternate between. When you have a monopoly, you're setting yourself up for control, for dependency, and in the end, another form of slavery.
There you go. So you mentioned SWIFT, and it's important for Uniters and Jamaicans on a whole. And even if you're somewhere in the diaspora, you're not Jamaican, whether you're Ugandan, Nigerian, or Vincent, or whomever, and you're listening, you need to understand what SWIFT is, as Mr. Patterson mentioned. So SWIFT is, as he said, the messaging platform that allows international trade. Now, when you send your money from England to Jamaica, it's not the physical dollars that come. There's an exchange of value, and for that value to be exchanged, there is a message, a coded message that has to be sent over a specific communication network, and that is what SWIFT provides. So SWIFT stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. It's a registered company, as Mr. Patterson said, owned by a select few. That is key. And they have a monopoly on this international exchange. And guess what? In recent times, they have been abusing that monopoly. They have been using it to sanction individuals as well as countries, i.e. Russia. And those sanctions has led countries like Russia, the Brics Alliance, and others to say, no, we need a competing alternative, just like Mr. Patterson has been saying for Jamaica and about everything financial in Jamaica. And so they have started to put together a Brics Alliance that will create a separate money exchange to compete with the current SWIFT system. What will that do, as Mr. Patterson said? It will give us an alternative for international trade, for example, which means those prices of exchange will come down. At one point, I had to send money internationally. And when I looked at how ridiculous the rate was, if it wasn't illegal to carry so much money, I'd put it in my pocket. Now,
Yeah,
when you
why
have
is it
an
illegal?
alternative,
You know, why are they making it illegal for you to transport your own money? If you want to put into your suitcase as much money as your suitcase can carry, you know, they've really deceived us. You know, they've actually gotten us, we the people, to believe if tomorrow I'm going through customs and they open my suitcase and they find 20 million Jamaican dollars or 20 million US in it, I would immediately be arrested. Okay, because I have done something wrong. But why is it wrong to carry? If they have no proof that I've stolen that money from somebody, why is it wrong for me to carry a suitcase of money? Why have they put that in our minds that if we hear that anybody had a suitcase of money, then that person is automatically in the minds of all of us a criminal? You understand what I'm saying here? They've duped us.
I definitely suspect that. Definitely, that's one of the concerns that the Brics, the company, well, now they're calling it Brics Plus because other nations have definitely joined, and that was definitely one of the concerns. I just wanted to know, Mr. Wright, are you planning to do a presentation, slides, or you want us to just have a free flow discussion?
there is a video available if you have that queued. I'll let you know when. Do you have that queued?
Okay. Sorry, repeat.
Do you have the video queued?
Yes. I think we have the I loaded the presentation, so we can go ahead and see if there's no issues in terms of playing it. Yeah. But you'll let us know. Okay.
What I'll ask you to do is cue that video, and then I'll tell you when to play.
Okay.
All right. So continue with the SWIFT discussion. So of course, one of the things now that makes SWIFT so powerful is that they have somehow gotten us into the dogma of believing that there is only one currency that is suitable for international trade. And with that one currency and that one international banking system, we're locked into a vicious control mechanism. And we all know that that cannot be nice because now prices are high, as I've mentioned, in terms of international trade, and they can choose who, as a form of arbitrary punishment, gets to use their platform. So the Brics team is looking into changing all of that. But now that we are understanding what Brics is fighting against and what existed before Brics, let's now continue to look at the broader output of the alliance, or the broader outlook, of the alliance. And It's time for that video, Moderator Nelson.
All right, let me see
I
if
have
I
a
can. In the
question.
meantime, Mr.
If
Potts, not a
you don't have it
question
up-
Yeah.
or a point.
You said, Mr. Wright, you pointed out a number of challenges. For example, the reserve currency and how it is weaponized and SWIFT and so on. But do you know what is the real mission of the BRICS nations? Is it because they're trying to fix our problem, which we're identifying here, or is it that they're trying to fix a different problem that may address some of our concerns, but they really have a different mission? Because I don't want us. Why I'm saying this, I don't want us to give the impression that the BRICS alliance is altruistic, that they're doing something because they want to fix the problem we, the UIC, want to fix. We want to fix the problem of having a truly free and fair economy, transparency, removing control, bringing back our individual sovereignty. But I don't think that's the objective of the BRICS nation. I think they have other objectives which they will help our objectives, but they're not necessarily seeking to address our objective. That's my thought. What is your thought on that?
You are pointing in the right direction that we should look as uniters. And from following BRICS, I can tell you that no, they're not benevolent or altruistic. They have ulterior motives outside of their stated agenda. And even their stated agenda is confrontational, to say the least, where they're looking to not only create an alternative financial system, but they're looking to what is popularly referred to as de-dollarize, where they're working to remove the US as a preferred trading currency, the US dollar that is. That will have detrimental effect on the US economy itself. Because if you and I want to spend US dollars, we have to earn it. Right? And in earning it, it gives demand and allow the currency to appreciate in value. So they're looking to replace it, which will lose that value. And people have gone to war for less. But having said that, when you look at BRICS, the prominence of BRICS these days only came about since the 2021-2022 war between Russia and Ukraine, where heavy sanctions were levied against Russia, which was unprecedented, considering that Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Now, that had very deleterious effects on Russia's economy. So they're like, no, boss, we can't have this. Let us know, since we are part of BRICS since 2006, let us push this agenda even further to solve our economic problem by being able to bypass these sanctions. Because as it is, the US can tell any bank to, no, you can't send this money because it's going to Russia or it's coming from Russia. With an alternative system, especially one that they control, they can send money anywhere. They can trade it anywhere.
To you, Mr. Moderator, but the challenge for me is I know that we should not trust China and we should not trust Russia, and we dare not continue to trust the Americans. So I want to make sure that people don't get the impression that, hey, let's jump to BRICS. No, what I want us to do is let's encourage BRICS to exist, and let's have the SWIFT exist, and let's have the alternative. And bigger than all of that, let's educate our people so they really understand the game, what is really going on here, so that we as a people can even find another alternative superior to both the BRICS and the SWIFT in order to give mankind true freedom. Now, Bitcoin suggests that it is addressing that problem by having a decentralized system of currency or money. It hasn't worked out so far yet as a currency. It's working more as a store of value, supposedly a hedge against inflation, maybe. But the bottom line is this: we, the people of Jamaica, want to understand and help our people to understand what is money, what is a monetary system, how should money work, how it's actually working, how are we losing our purchasing power, whether it's being manipulated by the central bank led by America, or it's being manipulated by our local central bank, which is a part of that banking cartel. Whatever it is, we want to ensure our people fully understand it, so that when we want to lead them now outside of this system, and not be controlled by it. They'll be mentally ready, but not be simplistic and thinking, oh, BRICS, let's jump to BRICS, without understanding that China has an ulterior motive, Russia has an ulterior motive, and their motive, though it will give us greater diversity, may not necessarily be a motive we want to fully buy into. We want to buy into the motive of our freedom, our liberty, our property rights, and our ability to trade with anyone we want to without anybody, be it China or America, being able to sanction us and remove our right to trade.
I like the face print of, no, I was saying I like the face print of what you said, because it's interesting. The official word coming from BRICS is that no, we're not anti-Western. We're not even about de-dollarization. But without a shadow of a doubt, it's interesting how the politics itself plays out. Because if you look at both Russia and China, one could say one was a former superpower, the other one is an aspiring superpower. So there's always politics. I agree 100% with both of you. There's always politics inside it, and as a people, we need to understand the issues that surround BRICS itself. Go ahead, Mr. Wright.
Definitely, and one of the things I have to reiterate is the things that the UIC stands for in this instance. So, in terms of our foreign policy outlook when it comes to dealing with multilaterals, we need to recognize that as a people, we'll be a friend to all and an enemy to none, participating in any of the systems that avail itself to the best practices and best use for Jamaicans. We're definitely using these systems in a non-aligned way. So there's a policy to say if it's creating our own, we'll definitely be looking at doing that. Right? We welcome free and fair trade with any country that wishes to trade with us. So regardless of who you have a contention with, we're not looking at that. We're looking what's best for Jamaicans. We're willing to trade with you once we're exchanging value for value. And of course, we welcome competition and alternatives in the global market, because that can only serve Jamaicans best, including the current monetary systems, whether it be SWIFT or BRICS or whatever. So we'll definitely work, again, for the best interests of Jamaica. Right? And of course, we do not subscribe to any currency being mandated as preferred trading currency. We'll definitely look to bolster our currency, to add value to our currency, so that we can trade anywhere in the world that Jamaicans choose to trade. And of course, we don't agree with the arbitrary blacklisting of any country. It has happened to Jamaicans right now. We're suffering because our British counterparts, so to speak, decided that Jamaica doesn't have a strong enough anti-money laundering framework and added us to a blacklist. And that has impacted us in significant ways.
All right. Okay, are you ready for the video, or?
Definitely, we're ready for the video.
All right.
Do you know what shocks will be given to the West at the BRICS Summit 2024? As of now, the world seems to be busy with broader political issues. However, BRICS has been working secretly, and as of now, it not only has put a new payment system in place, but is attracting hundreds of countries. It's just unbelievable that 159 out of the 195 countries of the world have already committed to adopting this new BRICS payment system. What does that mean for the West-dominated SWIFT payment system? What are these countries that are joining hands with BRICS against the West's bullying payment system? In this video, let's learn about everything that is bringing nightmares to the West. So, what's the story? Until now, countries around the world have never been serious about considering the adoption of any other payment system than SWIFT. Therefore, earlier, when there were talks about BRICS developing and working on finding an alternative, it was considered impractical. That's because it was hard to believe a new alliance would make 195 countries in the world choose new, untested options. But guess what has happened? Today, 159 countries around the world are waiting for BRICS to make its payment system live so they can adopt it. This new BRICS payment platform is designed to facilitate trade among member countries without relying on the US dollar, marking a major advancement in their de-dollarization strategy. This initiative could be a game changer, not just for BRICS nations, but also for many other countries looking to reduce their dependence on the dollar. In recent years, BRICS has been actively working to decrease its reliance on the dollar, particularly in response to Western sanctions against Russia. The creation of this payment system is a clear push toward promoting the use of local currencies and alternative settlement methods for international trade. We are seeing that despite initial doubts, the concept has gained considerable momentum. Elvira Nabiullina, governor of Russia's central bank, clearly said that this new system will provide an alternative to SWIFT, the globally dominant financial messaging network. To make things easier to understand for those who believe SWIFT cannot be replaced, she said that similar systems are already in place in other countries. The success of this system will largely depend on the technical readiness and interest of the participating nations, and in this case, new participants are waiting in line to adopt the new payment system. Victoria Panova, head of Russia's Brics Presidency Council, highlighted that developing this payment mechanism has become a top priority for the alliance. For many, this comes as a surprise because until now, Brics has been denying that it's developing a new payment system. She explained that the system is intended to make trade and economic exchanges between Brics countries more independent. This initiative is central to the agenda for the upcoming Brics 2024 summit. Once the Brics payment system is launched, it is expected to be operational immediately, potentially expanding trade opportunities within the alliance. With many nations eager to join Brics, this new system could become a cornerstone of their economic strategies, offering a viable alternative to the US-dominated financial order. But how has Iran entered the debate and made the West nervous? Nasser Kanani, the spokesperson for Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has put forward a proposal to link the payment systems of all Brics nations to streamline and enhance the efficiency of financial settlements between these countries. That's because Iran has the experience and expertise to survive despite facing strict sanctions. It knows how to bypass SWIFT and continue trade, making economies sanctions-proof. Kanani pointed out that the current geopolitical environment is ripe for such an initiative, particularly as Brics countries are increasingly moving their trade payments to national currencies. Therefore, Iran is pushing for a deeper integration of the economic systems within the Brics bloc. The proposed plan involves connecting the existing payment systems of these nations, which would allow for smoother and more seamless financial transactions across the bloc. After this, the payment infrastructure will be expanded and more countries will be added. In a recent press conference, Kanani highlighted the successful integration of the Russian and Iranian payment systems as a model that could be expanded across the entire Brics bloc. He emphasized that the conditions are already in place to advance this initiative and noted that Iran has formally suggested to Russia that this payment system integration be extended to all Brics countries. But what is this payment system that even the Western allies cannot ignore? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. Even if the names of the 159 countries willing to adopt Brics' new payment system have not been revealed, it's obvious that they include Western allies. According to statements from different meetings between Brics members, the new payment system is being referred to as the Brics Bridge. It is being designed to facilitate cross-border transactions without the need for the US dollar. This initiative seeks to enable trade settlements in local currencies, reducing dependence on the dollar and potentially replacing the US-controlled SWIFT system. The proposed payment system would function independently, allowing member nations to conduct trade using their own currencies, challenging the traditional dominance of the US dollar and the Western SWIFT system. As of now, progress is being made, with ongoing discussions among central banks and finance ministries across all Brics countries, including the newly joined members. And what will happen if these 159 countries adopt Brics' new payment system?
Go ahead.
All right. So we've heard a lot, Mr. President, being said, but also nothing being said. Because as you have pointed out, and as I know from following, they're creating a financial alternative to suit their ends. Because if you look at the large body of countries that is being thrust to the fore, these are countries that are heavily sanctioned and looking, as the narrator said, to bypass these sanctions. So again, it is not being created for the benefit of all, but it's being created for the benefit of few, and those joining are seeing benefits for themselves So they're also joining. So it's not open, free, or fair. It will be controlled just like the others. So
Yeah,
we have to look at how to position our economy. Over to you, Mr. President.
Sure. It's really so it's really a warfare. Eh? It's a war that's going on. So in the past we had wars where we sail on ships and we meet on the open seas and we duke it out, or we land on the shores of different countries or we bomb our way in and so on. We're now in a modern warfare, which is a monetary or economic warfare, which is happening. And we have this dragon which speaks like a lamb. If you are one of those persons who read Revelations, or Daniel and the prophecies in the Bible, America is depicted as this dragon which speaks like a lamb. So America has come to us and said to us, listen, we are the nation of liberty and freedom, and we want to spread democracy and freedom around the world. But at the same time, it is spreading some other things, like how do I get control of the assets and resources of a country and give opportunities to those who want to give opportunities to. So countries are fighting back, and some fight back in various ways. You have the Middle Eastern conflicts that we're seeing going on right now. You have the Russia-Ukraine conflict going on, which is really a conflict about land rights and America's dominance in terms of creating an alliance on the doorsteps of Russia. And so there are a lot of geopolitical challenges happening here, and countries are trying to figure out, how do we exist and survive in this environment? And so BRICS is really an outgrowth of that. And we now in Jamaica, our goal, in my opinion, must be, how do we safely straddle the fence and work with all sides in a way that makes Jamaican people the winner? The current government, from what I'm observing, they're more into almost picking a side in some ways, and also cut and pasting. So for example, whatever they're told to do by their international masters or foreign masters, they will just apply that to Jamaica blindly, and we the people suffer, because they who are in power, they will have the benefit of being in power and being able to get whatever side benefits that accrues to them, while we the people suffer. What we want is to ensure, I want BRICS to succeed, because if BRICS succeeds, we have two competing international trading platform in terms of transferring funds between countries and the peoples within those countries. The more we have competition, the better it's going to be for all of us globally, and Jamaica is a part of that global environment. But there is something more sinister at play here that I'm hoping we'll get a chance to speak about. And it's the fact that the SWIFT system is quietly, and maybe not so quietly, about to bring out its own central bank digital currency, which will be a powerful globalized currency. Because the truth is, the US dollar is dying either way. And the reason why it's dying is they have overextended it. They have weaponized it. They have printed far more money than the economy can absorb. And it's only a matter of time before that currency bubble explodes, and the American people are going to face the problem first. Of course, the rest of the world too, but Americans are going to feel it even more. So they have to put in place now a plan to, when the bubble kind of bursts, they said, look, we're going to transition to a new system. I'll give you an example of this. In the 1940s, when we got onto the Bretton Woods system, they decided to make the US dollar the reserve currency coming out of World War II. Having done that, the US dollar was the reserve currency, and it was backed by gold, which means it was a currency which was not easily counterfeited without you start realizing the disparity between the volume of US dollar and the volume of gold to match it. The US continued to counterfeit its own money, printing more money than gold reserves. That caused some of the alliance members like France to say, listen, this isn't working out. I want back my goal and I want out of this. Once that started to happen, America began to quake. And so what they did in 1971 was to now eliminate the connection between the US dollar and gold, separated completely. The US government even outlawed their citizens being able to own and trade gold as they wish at a certain point. The bottom line is the US dollar now became completely fiat, meaning fake. It had absolutely nothing backing it, no productivity, no gold, no nothing. That allows the US dollar now to become very inflationary. And so what the US have been doing over the last several years is exporting its inflation to the rest of the world by virtue of its monopoly status as a reserve currency. This is making life harder for all of the rest of us. So as long as that system continues, we're in trouble. Now, in the recent years, they have increased liquidity 100-fold under COVID, under the 2007-2008 financial crisis. So we have a whole lot of liquidity now in the economy that needs to be mopped up, so to speak. Now, they can't just mop it up like that. They're holding off with, first of all, having negative interest rate, zero interest rate. And finally, the system is going to completely break down, and they will have another system to replace it. And it's going to be the central bank digital currency. But this will be more potent than any other currency, because for the first time in the history of mankind, you're going to have a currency owned by a few, but used by all, controlled by the SWIFT system, and they're going to ensure that they can control when, where, who, and with whom you may transact business. This will give them complete control over the life of every single human being on earth who uses their version of money. And their version of money is already dominant. BRICS is very important to break that dominance and give us alternatives. But better than that, we the people, and I'm now speaking to my African brothers and sisters, we as a people, it is time for us now to stop playing around with this issue of monetary, creating our own money, and in fact create our own money and create our own banking system and be able to have a third competing banking system, not just BRICS, which is led by China and Russia primarily. I mean, South Africa is really a minor player, to be honest with you. So is Brazil, even though they have some asset base. The bottom line is we need a third and even a fourth. But if we allow the SWIFT system to become what it will become, a dominant central bank digital currency, which is programmable, we're going to completely lose our rights as individuals to our life, liberty, and property.
Interesting. So, Mr. Patterson, in connection to what you just said, and even matching it to the video as well, I noticed that a lot of the emphasis on the video had to do with payment options and so forth. And while we understand in the sense that the BRICS organization, China, Russia, it's right to play the political game to make it seem yes, there's altruism, but at the same time, we're giving options. We're not going fully against the SWIFT system. We're not going against the dollar and so on. And so we understand that there's a lot of political play in it. But just to touch base on the last set of points that you made, Mr. Patterson, if BRICS is to succeed and becomes a viable option, because the critics out there are saying that, they haven't accomplished much. Yes, they've formulated two banks that gives loans and ease certain restrictions in trade and so forth. But what really does Jamaica have to offer on the table?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
You want to go first, Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. President. Really and truly, Jamaica brings nothing to a table like that. We're in no position right now to enter any alliance. And I go back to what the UIC stands for. Build ourselves first. Be strong at home. Be protectionist of our economy and our citizens' right to trade freely and fairly. And then partner with anyone that is willing to work with us. If you're willing to trade with us, we're willing to trade with you. Now let's look at it. Economics alone. All the players here, minor or significant, are economic powerhouse. And one of the big things they have going for them is It's either very diversified energy mix or cheap energy, which makes them producers, right? Meaning their manufacturing base is strong. Jamaica is a service-driven economy. All we have is tourism. Sugar is dead. The Goodyear factory has been gone a long time ago. Dairy is dead. It has moved to Trinidad since the 80s, and I can go on and on. And the simple reason is because we have an energy monopoly, one that doesn't serve the interests of the people. And another program will talk about what the UIC policy is on diversifying our energy sector. But until we have that very diversified energy mix that allows production on a scale that makes sense, we can't go to a table like this and say, hey, I want to be a player. Over to you, Mr. President.
Sure. So where I see us making a play, and I agree with you, Mr. Wright, we can't play on the level of the other partners. We're not the BRICS. Why BRICS would want Jamaica is that they want right now there are 11,000 banks on the SWIFT system, 11,000 banks across 200 countries. Numbers mean something. The BRICS economy alone accounts for roughly 46% of the world's GDP. If you were to add, let's say, a country like Venezuela into the mix with their oil production, which I know Venezuela is knocking on the door right now and it's likely to be admitted, you're now going to have the existing major BRICS country plus Venezuela and a couple others are willing to join will now account for more than 65% of oil capacity in the world, which means a great commodity base to back what they're trying to do. But here's where Jamaica fits in all of this. If I were Prime Minister today, what I would lead Jamaica to bring to the table is for us to be a part of building the system and ensuring that it has strong resilience and take into consideration the factors affecting the Caribbean community and the Central and South American community and the African community. Now, I would try to position us as a thought leader on the subject. We might not have commodity leadership to bring to the table or energy, but we can bring thought leadership. So what you want BRICS, the BRICS leadership is thinking in the context of what they think. So China thinks Chinese, Russia thinks Russia, Brazil thinks Brazil. So the last, if we continue to simply be an appendage to the global economy, we will be such. But how about we come to the table with intellect, with vision, and help to in a quiet way steer the ship in the direction it should go, which is to become a real good competitor to SWIFT by being the freest and fairest international trading platform in the world. And Jamaica would then make a name for itself by being little but Talawa, because we're contributing to the intellectual development of this space and defending the rights of all the players, especially the minority players, so that they're not overlooked in the process. BRICS want numbers. It wants 200 countries to sign on. That's not going to be easy. Suppose Jamaica were to be a leader in bringing the Caribbean and other African countries to the table, minor countries, but nonetheless numbers, getting their 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 200 banks as signatories, a part of the trading platform, the messaging aspect of BRICS, not the reserve currency aspect. And better yet, how about we lead the way as well in saying, instead of trying to form a new basket of currencies for trading, why not have true free market trading using the currencies in place and having an intermediary digital token that allows each country to buy this token and trade in parallel without that being anything managed by any central authority, but is based on blockchain technology that allows it to literally shift accordingly and move with market forces, as opposed to having a powerhouse like the US or a powerhouse like China or a consortium of them manipulating that particular token intermediary. That's the kind of intelligence I think we, if we had the leadership in Jamaica, could bring to the table.
Interesting. So, Mr. Wright, you wanted to add something?
Earlier Mr. Patterson mentioned that it's a warfare. And this is an age-old, and I do mean an age-old ploy of war. In Central Africa, for example, countries that sought independence or fought for independence and won those wars of independence, the first thing they were subjected to was massive devaluation of their currency by counterfeiting. That is a declaration of war. And we need to understand that, as the UIC has said, as Mr. Patterson has articulated, we need to look at our financial system, investing in it, and with our partners create a common trading place, whether it be a digital-based one, or it be a fiat-based one, or a collection of all, and trade with our brothers, starting in CARICOM, building those relationships, and then extending into the African diaspora, wherever we are in the world. That has not happened. That isn't happening because our leadership have found themselves to be token leaders who operate at the behest of the powers that be, those who don't have much general interest at heart. When we look at it and see the way the Jamaican economy, for example, has been managed and the way the foreign relationships have been managed in Jamaica, it is always to our detriment. For example, when America said Venezuela is no longer our friend, even though Venezuela was a friend to Jamaica, we turned our back on Venezuela. And when the war in Ukraine drove oil prices through the roof, and everybody else was getting free oil, including America, going back to Venezuela and negotiating an oil deal to supply themselves, we were left stranded, paying high market prices for oil and suffering. And the population, the general Jamaican population, suffered through the high electricity bills, which still have not gone down. So our leaders are subjecting us to the whim and fancies of others by allowing themselves to be dictated to, and that has to change.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
I was just going to mention, piggybacking on what Mr. Wright said a while ago, I'm at a loss, for example, with Africa. We have about, 50 states in Africa, right? 50. And to this day, Africa does not have a common currency or a common denominated money. I hate the word currency because currency is fiat. I like money, real money, sound money, as they call it. Why hasn't Africa been able to come together and have a one monetary unit? And just imagine if Jamaica could then be a part of that monetary unit, if it was real and substantive and properly designed. And the Caribbean could join that monetary unit, for example, because we're all, mostly of African descent. What a powerful thing if we had one common denominated money for all 50 or so states in Africa and the Caribbean states joining together, even with Brazil and Guyana as well. Look how powerful. And then, of course, you create, on top of that, you create your own SWIFT system, if you will, your own messaging system, and allow us, so even if we were to under embargo by any power, whether it's America or China, we have that with all those countries and their banking institutions a part of this platform. What do you think, gentlemen?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I mean, the pundits will tell you that a lot of times when these issues and these questions come up as far as Africa is concerned, they mention the cultural factors and the cultural differences that the 52 African nations face. But in a very interesting sense, Jamaica itself could consider that it has geopolitical influence. Now, my question to you guys is that, Jamaica, it said it was the first Caribbean nation to be invited to a BRICS nation. So you can definitely see in which the strategy, what you spoke about earlier, Mr. Patterson, that in the sense that they trying to get many nations on board and targeting possibly regions itself, and of course Jamaica being one of the big players in the Caribbean. But I mean, how concerned should Jamaica be that the U.S. would recognize this? We said a friend to all. Is this much ado about nothing, or should Jamaica be concerned?
It's always a matter of how you manage your diplomacy, right? Some leaders are able to maintain good relations with countries who are at each other's throats. Some leaders can do that. Some leaders can't do that. They show tremendous bias and find themselves in one or the other camp. For example, Castro made that fatal mistake with Russia during the time. Jamaica made that fatal mistake with Manley during the 70s. But a UIC government would really try to maintain good relations with all of these parties, understanding that they are in a war and understanding the war that they're fighting and how we must play our cards. So, for example, when the issue came up with Hamas and Israel, our position should always be one of mediator. When Russia and Ukraine developed, ours should be mediator. When the problem occurred in Haiti, and you have foreign influences coming in, again, Jamaica should play a role as a mediator. We should not have sent our men and women in uniform to go and help to push a particular agenda in Haiti. So we have to make sure we're very careful about how we relate with all of these players and build bridges, the Brics bridge as they call this, but build bridges with these countries and not become adversaries, not become, big supporters of either one or the other, because there are always nuances, eh? So for example, when Ukraine was invaded by Russia, on the surface, here's a big country, as the Kamala Harris would say, going to invade a little country. And,
So
and,
simplistic.
and yeah, there's more to all of this, So for example, one would know that, okay, so here is America building the NATO alliance and expanding it on the doorsteps of Russia, even though in previous years they had made concessions and agreements that they wouldn't do that. And now you're stoking the bear and creating some serious problems, and the bear is going to respond for various reasons and so on. Also, you go to the China situation, understanding how China became China, the role that America played in that. So now when they chastise China for certain things, you should know that they're being hypocritical because of how they played the game. So you have to learn now not to get entangled in the optics of the situation. And I really love Lee Kuan Yew for how he has balanced this throughout his tenure as Prime Minister of Singapore. And by the way, he did it the same time when we were failing. So in the 1960s and 70s, when we were failing to properly manage geopolitics, Lee Kuan Yew, with a much smaller country, the size of St. Thomas, and much less resources, was able to negotiate and navigate the political tensions to make Singapore the powerhouse it is for the last 40 years or 35 years because of great diplomacy while doing the things necessary at home to build your own economy.
Right.
You mentioned the Caribbean earlier, Mr. President, understanding the history of the Caribbean. You mentioned like Haiti, etc. There is a seedy underbelly to all of this, and we definitely need to do another live to look at the Haiti situation, to get into that. A seedy underbelly to all of that. It's not just the optics on the surface, and for brevity we won't get into that. But the long and short of it is simply this: our leadership needs to be less controlled, right? To be uncontrolled, to be guided rather by the best interests of the people. Because we have seen several actions in the past and the various administrations where they work in the best interest of a colonial power, which is to the detriment of Jamaica. So that definitely has to change in a big way.
Yeah.
And UIC government is the way to do that because of our approach. Our foreign policy outlook may seem direct and for some glossy, but it is the best way. And as you mentioned, Lee Kuan Yew was able to do the same thing and fly below the radar and establish his country as an economic powerhouse.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Moderator, I noticed we have a lot of comments in the comment sections. Do you want to take a few of any questions or comments there so we can look at them? And while you're doing that, Mr. Moderator, I just want to say, when it comes on to where BRICS is heading and what Jamaica needs to do about it, I want to piggyback on something Mr. Wright said a while ago. He talks about our leadership becoming less controlled. But our leadership, the leadership of Jamaica, or what I like to call the misleaders of Jamaica, they are incapable of ever representing the people of Jamaica because their political parties are not funded by the people of Jamaica. Their political parties are funded by PSOJ oligarchs. So those two colonial parties will only work in the interest of the PSOJ oligarchs. Now, the PSOJ oligarchs are not interested. Yeah, Mr. Wright?
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. President. You have said this several times.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that persons think you're just speaking in hypothetical. Can you, in your comment right now, give one or two specifics as to why you said that?
Sure. So when you have a political system where the parties, remember the parties claim to represent the people of Jamaica. Yes, they go out and they campaign and they get the votes of a small subset of the people because the majority of Jamaicans no longer participate in the voting process. So we have a government that does not represent the people of Jamaica even by votes. Now, how do they get these votes? They get these votes because they have been given monies by a particular donor, right? A particular funder. The funder is primarily the PSOJ oligarchs. Now, these are big business and corporations, many of whom are no longer owned by Jamaicans, by the way. You understand? So a lot of the people that are controlling our boardrooms are not Jamaicans anymore. Less and less Jamaicans are having a say at the table of corporate Jamaica. Corporate Jamaica is now really foreign owned for the most part. So if you have foreign owned entities and rich elites here in Jamaica, who some live here and some live abroad and some transit through here, they are now controlling these two political parties. Now, how will these parties make decisions? They're going to make decisions based on their donors, based on their funders. Now, bear in mind, there's also a secondary funder. While they get direct funding for campaigns through the PSOJ oligarchs, they also develop a relationship with international partners who said, you know, when you're elected, we're going to work with you. You're going to get grants. You're going to get loans from us. Now, when politicians get grants and loans, they now figure out ingenious ways to siphon off some of that money into their own personal enrichment. And sometimes they can't declare their assets timely or properly or explain them properly because of where they might have gotten the funds from. And you know about that. But go ahead, Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright, I saw where you wanted to intervene.
So it's a specific reference to a newspaper article. Sorry to interrupt again. Is this specific reference to information that came out in the print media a few months ago that listed major political figures in government and in opposition who have huge, charitable trust and associations under their name sitting on a substantive war chest?
Absolutely. And we don't know where these monies came from because they're not being audited, right? They're not being audited by they're not being audited in a way that would lead us to the truth. There's no real audit. There's no forensic audit. So what you have happening is there are all kinds of monies coming in to these politicians' coffers for them to win elections. Now, back to your original point, Mr. Wright. Now, when you have a government that is not owned by the people, that government will not work on behalf of the people. The two colonial parties know that they will win the Jamaican election whether or not they ever address the real interest of the Jamaican people. So, for example, today, oh, by the way, they brought back electricity in my area. I live in between Elam and Bogue in St. Elizabeth. We got back electricity on the 14th of August, I believe it was. everybody got electricity except me. Can you imagine that? So they figured out a way to give electricity to everybody in the community and to find a way that just between me and the two sides of the community that I border, I don't have any electricity.
So renewable energy is at large.
Right. Now watch this. What I wanted to make the point though is this now. When I'm telling JPS to come to my house, to come and address the problem, they ask me, how do I get to your house? I can't say to them, I live on any street, 123 any street, which is at the corner of Front Street and White Street. I can't say that because we don't have that in many areas of Jamaica. I just live in a district. So I am in Bogue District and that's it. They can't find my place easily. Gentlemen, why I'm saying this, we do not have politicians or leaders who are focused on doing the things to improve the lives of Jamaicans. That's why every community, you have many communities in Jamaica, the vast majority, 90% of them, have no well-designed community center, no well-designed and maintained green spaces for the family to enjoy on a weekend, no well-developed and designed, library services with modern digital libraries and so on. So many communities without sidewalks, without street lights properly placed and so on, because our leaders have no respect at all for the people of Jamaica, no regard at all for the people, because they know that whether or not they serve the people of Jamaica, they will still be elected, because those who want them to be elected will fund their campaign and will do everything to help them to get rid of any third party from competing effectively against them, because they control the media as well and they control the money. The media and the money ensures their monopoly on the system. So they have no time to now fight for us in terms of the international trading platform. They will just bring any sanctions and drop it on the people of Jamaica, because they're not fighting for us. They're fighting for another cause, and we're just pawns in that entire system.
So just to get some comments in, we have Blue Wave here that says, I think the SWIFT system is dying and they're moving to the quantum financial system where a true asset will be backed by the currencies. And you can stop me and respond to anyone you like.
Well, that one isn't, the SWIFT system is not dying. The SWIFT system is alive and well. What is dying is the existing monetary system in terms of the fiat currency system as it currently operates. That is dying because it is going to implode, because it's a debt-based system and the debt level has risen up so much, and they're trying their best to see how they can bring us to a soft landing. And there is no soft landing. It simply will mean the transfer of wealth, more and more transfer of wealth from the majority to a few, until the people erupt and revolt. What they're trying to stop now is the revolt. And the way they're going to stop the revolt is by saying, we have a financial crash, but let's replace it now with this digital system, this central bank digital currency, and that will fix the problem. That's what they're going to tell us. And so we're going to all now line up because we're suffering, because the system has failed. We won't know. We, the people, won't know that the system has deliberately failed. They have used it against us. They've weaponized the system against us, and we're suffering, but we're going to allow them to give us the solution. Just like in Jamaica here, where we're asking the people who created the crime problem to now solve the crime problem. And every year we allow them to tell us about, they have a crime plan. So when they're in opposition, we have the right crime plan. You're doing bad. And when they become elected, fail. And the other one that was in says, we have the right crime plan. And when you elect us, we'll fix it. And we go back and forth. So what they're going to do with the monetary system is the very same thing. They're going to say, the system has crashed. They're going to blame something, and then say, now all line up and march into this new system, which is going to be better. We'll have no more problems in the future. All will be well. Just line up and take this. And when we take it, they will now have control over every aspect of our lives. Who, when, where, how much we can spend. And we're going to find ourselves completely in digital chains because they will now control us with a new central bank digital currency.
Is that right?
You know, as morbid and as dystopian as this sounds, it is all a very real and imminent danger. I'll point this out. The criticism of the Chinese system is a hypocritical one because major countries and organizations who are looking to divert our finances into a digital programmable token are looking in real time at the Chinese model, and we hear prominent so-called democratic leaders saying they love the Chinese system, which is a social credit score system, which follows you for the entire life, everywhere you go, in everything you do. Sounds familiar? Where they get to decide by programming your activities or your access to various things, and a digital currency that is central bank control allows them to put the icing on the cake. I see information coming out of China where persons aren't allowed to fly, prominent journalists, because of stories they are printed, because they're able, their monies are able to be programmed and their access controlled. And when we hear our government and other governments talk about the new digital monetary systems, they never mention to the people that it is programmable. So they can, with the flip of a switch, decide who have and doesn't. But a system like that is not to be feared. It's who controls it that needs to be feared. And right now, our leaders are showing us that they are to be feared.
Well,
But
we don't. The thing is, we can never trust who can control it either, because once the system, you say, take you and me, Mr. Wright, the three of us here, we might be here talking nice and holy right now, and we mean the world to Jamaica, we mean the best to Jamaica, and whatever. And when we're given power, suddenly we seem to get our head hit, and we start to exhibit the very same tendencies of those we have replaced, which is why the UIC is so specific that we don't want to base the future of Jamaica on any individual or group of individuals. We are proffering a systemic solution. So we have offered Jamaica a system. So for example, in our system, the Prime Minister doesn't get to appoint senators and then be able to control them by virtue of his appointment. The people of Jamaica elect their own senator. In our system, the leader, the president, doesn't get to appoint ministers of government unilaterally. He has to go through a process where not just him, or she, the president plus the three vice president and the Gen Sec and Treasury Secretary have to meet together and look at a short list of persons and say these persons are qualified to serve in these roles. We call them subject matter experts, and then make a recommendation to the Senate, who then interviews them publicly so all Jamaicans can see and hear and follow and say why the person they're going to be Minister of Health. They're going to say why. His or her credentials are listed. They're interviewed publicly. And then the House of Representatives, having watched the whole process, votes yes or no for this person to be appointed. Now, what does this do? It means that Jamaicans will get the best healthcare minister possible. Because, by the way, we don't limit it only to a Jamaican living in Jamaica. We say find the best Jamaican. So if you have a Jamaican living in Australia, and they have developed the competences in a particular area, and we start, I say, we want the man there or the woman there. That person can then be called back to Jamaica if they want to return, vetted according to the process. And so Jamaica now end up with qualified and competent persons. But the system, Mr. Wright, that we're putting in place is bigger than any individual and self-controls. Now you have the checks and balance of a Senate, which is made up of persons who are elected per parish. So any bill that comes to be passed, it's the senators looking at it from their perspective, from St. Thomas perspective, from Portland perspective, from St. James perspective, from Westmoreland perspective, or whatever. So we get a bill passed that will protect the interest of Jamaicans across all 14 parishes, and not any bill that was pushed through the Congress or the Parliament by special interest groups who have control over our prime minister and over his cabinet and over his party by virtue of contributions. And that is why we have a 100% publicly funded system, so the best and brightest can run for office and not be hindered by the lack of funding coming from the oligarchs, but instead it's publicly funded based on your personal qualification, independent of party. So these are the kind of systemic changes we want to make that will make Jamaica foolproof from any one of us becoming elected and then going rogue. The system will contain us and control us. What do you say to that, Mr. Moderator?
So I just so some will say that corruption is a human problem, and no matter what system you create, they will find a way. So perhaps you can emphasize to the people the checks and balances, the accountability, and the swift action that will be taken underneath a UIC government, under a UIC government, if such breaches occur.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, first would love to hear me say, for example, we're going to, chop your neck off or do something, but that's not the issue here. The issue here is this: while human beings will always attempt to do wrong things, the key are the checks and balances. So in Jamaica, we have a prime minister's office, which is all powerful. You appoint the Senate, you appoint cabinet ministers, you can take several ministries onto yourself and say, me around this and so on. In a UIC system, that's not allowed. You have proper checks and balances by virtue of the leader of the country cannot take on these portfolio onto him or herself because he's limited to his role and is constrained by these other checks that are written into the Constitution. So it's very important for people to understand that while no system is foolproof, there are better systems than others. There are companies, for example, who have good internal controls, and my job as an accountant the last 30 years is spent putting in systems and controls in companies, very big companies. With oil for credit, it's $146 billion operation there. So the bottom line is this: if you have good systems, you get good results. If you have bad systems, you get bad results. Jamaica has a very bad system, and we're getting very bad results. For example, Mr. Wright, look at our road construction and maintenance. If we had proper checks and balances, you would not award contracts to people who can't do the work, and they would not get paid if they haven't done the work properly. And if you have a subsequent major failure, they would be on a blacklist because of that, and their insurance indemnity would have covered the problem. So Jamaica would have ended up with good quality roads that last the duration of the material that should have been used on them, and would get value for money. Similarly, in our education system, we would not have a system where schools just get money regardless of the quality of students they put out, and teachers get paid the same way no matter what happens, and so on. Nor would you have a welfare system where parents just get some money, but there are no connection between the money and the outcomes in the lives of the students that are supposed to be funded in the process. The UIC is going to link cause and effects and ensure the checks and balances bring out the best in all of us as a people.
It's all right.
Now, there's much I can add to that, but first let me say, I love the George Orwell parallel, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that is absolutely correct. We see that here in Jamaica, where the office of the Prime Minister, as Mr. Patterson pointed out, is a power unto itself, harnessing several ministries and junior ministers and so on under his portfolio. And when we look at what they have put out as their prescriptive change to the Constitution to bring about a better Jamaica, it is literally the same thing with different words on a new sheet of paper.
Actually worse.
Absolutely not worth the ink that was.
It's actually worse. I'll give you one example, Mr. Wright. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'll give you one example because you said it's the same thing, and I know what you mean, and I agree with you, but it's actually worse. Look at what they're about to do in the current colonial system, right? The current colonial system. For the Prime Minister to get a 2/3 vote in the House, the Senate, in the current system, the Prime Minister has automatically 13 members of the 21-member Senate, and the opposition party has 8. Okay? For the Prime Minister to get a 2/3 majority to pass certain key bills in Parliament, he would need at least one senator from the opposition party to join in for that law to pass. You know that, right? That's the current system. The system they're now proposing is to give the prime minister
Yes.
and the governor general whom he appoints an absolute 2/3 majority in the new system, regardless of the opposition party. That's the new proposal that they're going to put through, which would mean that anytime the opposition party doesn't agree with something, the prime minister never have to worry about it, because he will have normally the full support of the governor general to give him that 2/3 majority. That is the most dangerous thing that they've put in.
I think the prime minister wants to be prime minister for life.
Yeah. This is dangerous. And I mean, this prime minister, and I hate to even refer to him because it's not him. The current prime minister, like the opposition leader and all the other members of the colonial parties who are in its leadership, are all one and the same. They're serving the same master. So sometimes they get us to become antagonistic against one or the other. Like right now, there are many Jamaicans who are looking forward to voting out the current prime minister on the false pretext that when they vote in the other one, they're getting an improvement. You're not getting any improvement. All you're getting is a change of who is in the seat and the face. But the outcomes and what is being done to the Jamaican people will continue. And if you want an example, let's look at it. The People's National Party has had 18.5 years straight in office. And when they finished, it was worse than when they started. The JLP has gotten the first 2 terms at every major juncture in Jamaica. In 1944, they got the first 2 terms. And in 1962, they got the first 2 terms. That is 20 years. And you still got the same or worse result. Look at our crime rate. It has just gotten worse over the years. If you look at since independence, both parties have now gotten roughly 30 years in office, 31, 32 years in office, both parties, right? And you have not seen Jamaica moving in any significant ways. What you have now are each party trying to find the smallest minute they can point to. One will say, well, when Manley was in, we got NHT, or we got no Boston that they get, or whatever. A few little things. But Jamaica is light years behind where it should be, and we're being led to believe that that's the best we can do, and we need to continue to hope that our favorite of the 2 parties will get back in to take us further. And it's not happening, and it will not happen.
Right. So gentlemen, when you look at it, just to pick up where you left off, Mr. Patterson, when you look at it, major economies in the world have not progressed because mainly through political partisanship and so on. You think about America's dominance, they're always headway into industrialization and the periods of industrialization and so forth. Coming out of World War II, they definitely had the advantage because of the industries and the idea of building industries. You look at China, manufacturing, you look at Germany, service industry being strong, France having a strong emphasis on luxury goods and so forth. Where do we take Jamaica? What are the key areas in which we need to focus on as a nation to give us bargaining power, to give us some sort of parity with other nations?
Go ahead, Mr. Wright.
The UIC has already given the prescription. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The UIC has already given the prescription for that correction. And it begins with playing to our strengths. The UIC speaks about competing in organic food production, making Jamaica the organic food production capital of the world. There's a heavy emphasis now on nutrition because the link between diet and lifestyle diseases is now undeniable. But at the same time, these large special interest groups who produce these chemicals that poison us at the cellular level still hold much lobbying power and sways over large governments that subsidize your agriculture in a big way. We can enter that market just like Holland and compete in a very big way. We have the arable land, we have the abundance of planting seasons, and we have the climatology to do that. Also, when you look at water, now as part of nutrition, water quality is a huge concern, and the water market, especially in developed countries, a large market, and the UIC and Mr. Patterson has always said.
I think I lost Mr.
Yeah,
Wright.
we
Yeah, let me
lost
see if
Mr.
I
Wright,
can,
but he's on the right path. He's on the right path there, Mr. Moderator.
right.
He has, the UIC likes to look at a very holistic view. So there are three major areas that we can do very well in, compete very, very well in that. One is water security. We have the capacity to be a water giant, to be a giant in the harvesting of water, the purification of water, the trading of water. Now, we benefit as a country by doing that because it means we would have protected our water table, protected our water harvesting, and build out our water harvesting capacity, and become a giant in capturing, storing, purifying, and selling water. And we go and drink it too. So we're going to be healthy. So water security and water trade is a big part of the UIC plan. And as Mr. Wright was saying before, the next element is food security. Now, if we become the organic food capital of the world, we're feeding ourselves good food at the cellular level, as Mr. Wright said earlier on. So we're eating well and we're selling our surplus to the rest of the world. Now, remember, you're also building your teaching now. I would like for us to have our universities become well developed and well established as a major educational institution when it comes on to agriculture, food production, food processing, right here in Jamaica. So become a leader in processing, a leader in growing, a leader in exporting of food. Remember, what this is doing is giving us food security. So we have water security and we have food security. And the third component now is to have energy security by building out our ability to capture alternative energy, water, wind, biomass, solar, geothermal, and co-mingling those in co-generating facilities, including our citizens becoming a part of the harvesting. So our citizens now being a part of a network. Just imagine several homes, schools, churches, government offices fully solared out. So we're using existing space without infringing on our space. You follow me? And, so we mix that into now the whole business of the whole water harvesting and food production. So you're using this kind of energy to help you with that kind of work. And you're training your students in, water engineers, food engineers, energy engineers. Okay, so we're becoming a leader now. We're developing skills now that we become a leader globally in these three areas. Now we mix these three things now with something we call community tourism, where now we focus on making all of Jamaica look, smell, and feel like a tourist resort. Beautiful roads, lovely sidewalks, beautifully manicured grass and flowers and fruit trees and parks. And all, so that the whole country just look like a tourist destination. Every community, whether it's Betheltown where Winston is, or Bogue up here, or Elam down there, or Braze River, or Santa Cruz, anywhere, right across Jamaica, it looked like a tourist resort. Not for the tourists, it's for we. But we're doubling its effect now by having it now become a mecca for tourists to come in throughout the country. So we don't have to rely now on the all-inclusives to bring us the money, which most of it goes back out because they're foreign-owned. We bring the tourists to the homes of Jamaicans, in the backyard of Jamaicans, in the front yard, in the community, and they're spending the money directly with the Jamaican people. So watch what's happening now. We're attracting tourists because we're pretty, and we're now going to have the Jamaican culture spread out. But we're also, because we're a water leader, the tourists want to come and see that. So we have all kinds of things that show how harvest water, how we process it, how we purify it. So we become like a museum, Mr. Wright, a museum for the highest technology of water management, water capture. The same thing for food. We're a tourist attraction because of how well we harvest and produce organic food. The tourists want to come here. They want to taste our grape and our strawberry and our orange and our banana and our papaya and our jackfruit and our Julie mango and East Indian and all the other mangoes we have. And it's a part of our tourism mix now. So we're doubling our benefits now. We're harvesting good water, drinking good water, exporting it. We're harvesting good food, eating it, exporting it. We're harvesting good energy and becoming a leader globally. So now we're now consultants in the rest of the world on energy technology. You understand me? And now we have all these people coming into our country to enjoy it at the grassroots level, spreading the money there. And on top of that, so we have tourism, we have the food, and now we have the best community policing service in the world, where the police is no longer this brute force element, but is actually like a social worker that's a part of the community, known by the family, known by the children, known by the nurse, known by the optometrist, known by the doctor, known by the auto mechanic, and is a part of the community. So the people becomes comfortable with the police, comfortable to report crime, comfortable to report corruption, knowing that they have a trusted police service that they can rely on and is there for them, know them picnic from baby growing up. They're a part of the community and they're highly respected because they're well paid, well trained, and they look upstanding. They look wealthy. If you're a police officer in the UIC Jamaica, you must look wealthy. You must look like you're one of the best job in the country. The children want to grow up and become police officers because of how upstanding police are. And the same for our teachers. They must look at our teachers and say, wow, I want to be a teacher because of how well paid they are. They drive good car, they live in good homes, they're upstanding, and they're a part of the community. I've said enough. Back to you, Mr. Wright. Welcome back.
Thank you. I was off here for a bit, so I missed quite a bit, but I know what the vision is. So I'm quite comfortable that you shared it with our viewers, and I saw the comments that attest to that. But
thank you.
Let's before we get to a closing though, I'd love for us to look at the Jamaican economy and see if there are pluses or minuses to looking to these alliances and stay neutral.
Sorry, was that a question, Mr. Wright? I didn't hear it. Forgive me.
Yes, I was saying I'd love for us to look at the Jamaican economy, where we are today, and see what are the pluses and minuses, if any, in joining these alliances, these type of alliances, and on the other hand, stay neutral in the face of these alliances.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Moderator, my position is that it's not even so much that we're joining an alliance. We should be encouraging the world to say it's good to have alternatives. We should say to our American friends, we believe in your vision for the world, a vision where we have free and fair markets, a vision where we have competition. So we're not going against America. We're appealing to because we believe in freedom. We believe in what the American dream is, where every man and woman must have the right to their life, liberty, and property, and the ability to prosper to the fullest extent. We believe in a meritocracy. We believe in people earning their way through life. We believe the best man should win. And the best way for us to do is to have competition. So America should welcome Brics, and Brics should welcome SWIFT. And we, the people of Africa, should welcome an African monetary unit that we, the African people, embrace, and it becomes a dominant form of money that allows us to trade freely, not just with Africa, but with the rest of the world. But of course, let's begin with the United States of Africa, the United States of the Caribbean, and we can extend that privilege to our friends in South and Central America, and we continue to broaden it. So we are for freedom, we are for free trade, we are for competition. We believe competition brings out the best in us. When we go to the track meets and we see the likes of Usain Bolt and those who come after him, Mr. Thompson and others, we love to see a good race. We don't want to see anybody being held back. We don't want nobody to put shackles on the feet of the runner from Russia or the runner from China or the runner from the Netherlands. We want everybody to have the same starting blocks. We want everybody to have the ability to put on their best pair of shoes, to train to the best of their ability. And when the gun goes off, we want to know that there are no false starts. And they're allowed to run, and the best man cross the tape. In the economic world, the more you have competition for a product, is the better the product and the lower the price. The lower you have, like what we have now in JPS, JPS has no competition because the government of Jamaica gave JPS a monopoly over energy in Jamaica, over power in Jamaica. And because of that, when JPS fails, we all fail. When JPS is inefficient, we all pay the inefficiency. And we're saying the time has come for us to say no more of that. Let's diversify our energy market and allow multiple players on a public grid. So we must make the grid public and have competition and have the competitors fund that grid through taxation and allow all Jamaicans to be able to plug into that grid without any sanctions against them. Allow them to put on their solar system and sell excess energy to the grid if they have any, or buy what they need from the grid if they need to. But let us stop propping up monopolies in Jamaica and having a true and free market for the product of energy in this country.
And when it comes to the discussion of BRICS, those are very powerful points and good summary for the discussion. You made the 4 points you made with the water security, food security, tourism, and community policing. You know, I guess it could be said that stability, because those points towards the direction of stability. Stability brings ingenuity and creativity for sure. So I definitely can see how that could resonate with well-thinking Jamaicans. Closing thoughts, Mr. Wright?
Yes. The Jamaican economy has been in shambles since the day we landed on this little rock. It was built on servitude and continues to be fueled by servitude. It's not an economy that served everyone's interest. We're at the point in our history where we know that the system is rigged and the two-party system has failed us. It is time to embrace a change that offers a new direction, new way of thinking, a more inclusive way of thinking. It is time for us to look at the systemic failures and not make excuses. It is time to move away from the die-heartedness of it all and go to the common sense of it all. It is time for us to look to the future of our kids because we realize that the world is transitioning. And if we don't prepare the world, this country for our kids, then our kids won't inherit it. So, isn't it time for a united group of people, a group that is independent in thought and independent in practice, a group that is a Congress but not partisan? Isn't it time for you to work as part of the UIC to build the Jamaica you want to see, to be a part of the change you want to create that future for your kids that was not created for you?
Amen.
By the UIC.
Well said.
Patterson? Mr. Patterson?
Sure. So tonight we're looking at the issue of the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Their goal is to replace the US dollar as the currency in which international trade is settled and to replace the SWIFT system, which is the US-controlled messaging platform used to facilitate international funds transfer. Decisions made by the United States-based central bank or Federal Reserves concerning the interest rate and volume of US dollar in circulation affects every country that maintains high levels of USD reserves, including Jamaica. The United States government and its allies may also place sanctions on other countries by limiting or blocking their access to the SWIFT system. making it very difficult or impossible for them to trade internationally. The weaponization of the SWIFT system is a form of economic warfare, which gives the United States a tremendous amount of power, as it may cripple the economy of any nation it deems a problem. Russia, which has faced severe sanctions on the SWIFT, has developed its own system. China, whose currency has increased in circulation for some international trade, has also developed its own version of SWIFT called SIPS. The BRICS countries are set to launch a joint alternative to SWIFT that would also replace the USD as the world's reserve currency by using a new currency or basket of currencies, or trading directly in each other's currencies, bypassing the USD altogether. Having two or more alternatives to SWIFT is a very, very good idea, because it would bring an end to the current international monopoly of both the SWIFT system and the USD reserve currency domination of the currency market. Having an alternative to SWIFT would reduce its impact as a weapon and allow for a more free and fair trade among nations. But we must not allow the BRICS or any other arrangements to become a monopoly in their own right. Presently, the SWIFT system, which is privately owned, note that, by those who control the central banks of the world, controls practically all international trade and is in the process of developing a central bank digital currency that would give them the power to fully control every single man, woman, and child on the earth. This international CBDC, or central bank digital currency, will be what everyone will use to buy and sell everything. As a programmable money, the new one world currency will take away our privacy. And that privacy will be in the hands of a private oligarchy that will be able to monitor and dictate what, when, where, and for whom, or by whom, and to whom you may buy or sell. The SWIFT CBDC banking oligarchy will be able to freeze or limit your account access at will, and may issue funds to you with expiry date, this denying you the right to save or invest your money as you see fit. This, my friends, is slavery. You no longer have control over your time. Your earnings will no longer be yours. If you cannot do with it as you please, you have lost control of your time and are thus a slave. At the heart of the problem is your right to these three basic things: the right to your life, the right to your liberty, and the right to your property. The UIC exists solely for the protection of your right to your life, to your liberty, and to your property. We exist solely to ensure you have a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. We exist to ensure that at the end of the day, be it BRICS or SWIFT, the UIC is here to protect you from any form of dictatorships, any form of control that would deny you of your freedom. Basic freedoms like the freedom of speech, the freedom of movement, or the freedom of association, or the freedom of choice. As we move into another era of pandemic, it's very important that you recognize that these basic rights are teetering on the edge and may be lost in a second. Thank you very much for paying attention to the UIC, and I must invite you, please go to our website at uicjamaica.com and join today. Volunteer and help us to save Jamaica from where they're trying to take us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Gentlemen, I think we took the discussion into the right direction. Well-balanced discussion. Points, many key points and areas were covered and addressed. And of course, a discussion like this, you can never complete discussing. So thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for everyone who tuned in and everyone who participated in all the comments and all of the UIC supporters and the supporters that will come in the future. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Have a good night. All the best. Bye, Mr. Wright. Good to see you again.